Ryuji is a nice and gentle high schooler, but all his classmates are scared of him because his eyes make him look scary. Since everyone thinks he is a delinquent, he has no friends at school except his friend Kitamura. Ryuji also has a crush on his classmate Minori, who also treats him nicely. Among Ryuji's classmates is Taiga, a short girl with a violent temper who knocks him out on his first day for running into her. One day Ryuji accidentally finds Taiga's love confession to his friend Kitamura in his bag, so a horrified Taiga ambushes him out of embarrassment. Although he is able to calm down Taiga with food, she accidentally learns about his crush on Minori. Ryuji then agrees to help Taiga with her confession to stop her violence, and he also discovers that Taiga lives next door to him as they can see each other from their windows. Ryuji goes over to Taiga's apartment, which is nicer than his but is in horrible condition, because Taiga never cleans and cooks. Ryuji can't help but clean her apartment for her as Taiga sleeps, and when she wakes up Ryuji feeds her a proper breakfast with his mother Yasuko, but Ryuji finds out that although Taiga is short, she has a huge appetite. On their way to school the next morning, Minori is surprised to see Taiga and Ryuji together and wonders if they are a couple, even though Ryuji denies it. Later at school, Ryuji and Taiga come up with a plan to get Taiga and Kitamura paired up during gym class by accidentally injuring Kitamura's actual partner. But Ryuji is uncomfortable with injuring a girl, and the plan fails because he ends up hitting Taiga instead. Ryuji then helps Taiga try to give cookies to Kitamura, but Taiga accidentally falls down the stairs and ends up destroying her cookies when she ends up chasing Kitamura. Taiga is upset that her gift is ruined, and Ryuji feels bad for her, so he ends up eating the cookies. Later Minori takes them to the roof of the school, and because of all their plans together she misinterprets their friendship for dating. Kitamura, who is also watching them, also thinks they are dating as well, and Taiga passes out due to their failure. Although Taiga appreciates Ryuji eating the cookies, she is upset that everyone seems to be misunderstanding the situation. Taiga decides that they need to clear up the misunderstandings, and she needs to confess to Kitamura herself, and that after she confesses she will no longer need his help. The next day Ryuji has breakfast with his mother and he starts to miss Taiga's presence. But later that day he finds out that she defended his reputation at school and cleared up the misunderstanding between her and Ryuji. He later watches her confess to Kitamura, who gently turns her down and tells her they should be friends. Ryuji then comes out of hiding and promises to support Taiga, and she beats him up but is thankful. One day Ryuji and Taiga are walking to school, and Ryuji stops to watch Minori play baseball, but Taiga beats up Ryuji for looking too long at the red-haired girl. Later in class she shows how to decorate cell phones to Taiga, and reveals that she has a part-time job decorating cell phones. Ryuji admires Minori so much for her work that Taiga becomes grumpy with him. When they eat dinner later that day, they then later see Minori working as a waitress at a dessert restaurant, but Ryuji stares at her a bit too much, so Taiga pokes his eyes. The next day, since his mother passed out, Ryuji takes Taiga to go help his mother with work. They run into one of his mother's customers and find him really annoying, but when Ryuji sees that Minori also works at the customer's restaurant, he quickly volunteers himself and Taiga to work at the restaurant too. Taiga is later assigned to do deliveries, but because she doesn't know how to ride a bike, she ends up pushing the bike for the deliveries. Left alone with Minori, Ryuji ends up stuck in a storage room with her. Meanwhile, while she is out on her deliveries, Taiga meets Kitamura, who compliments her for learning how to ride a bike. This motivates Taiga to really try to learn how to ride the bike, but she gets some injuries in the process. Ryuji and Minori try to stack boxes to find a way to escape the closet, and although the plan fails, Taiga finds them and is able to save them. Ryuji has kept going to Taiga's apartment to help her cook and clean because she lives like a slob. But one day while cleaning he finds blurry pictures of her crush Kitamura, and Taiga is bad at taking pictures because she gets too nervous. Ryuji offers to help her take photos of his friend at school, but when they meet Kitamura at school, Taiga is so nervous she can't act normally. Taiga also considers Sumire, who leads the student assembly, her rival because Kitamura is her second in command, and during assembly the two girls argue at each other. Later Taiga feels embarrassed with her behavior in front of Kitamura and she feels sad for the rest of class. Kitamura and Minori later surprise them with a four-way lunch, which makes Ryuji and Taiga nervous, but they accidentally reveal that Ryuji is making Taiga's lunches, and the two become worried that their relationship is misinterpreted again. They finally enact their plan to take pictures of Kitamura while he is playing baseball, but Ryuji sees that the reason why her pictures are always blurry is that Taiga is always too excited to take pictures. They later go to a cafe to review the photos, which have all ended up blurry. The next morning, Ryuji trains Taiga how to cook so she can try to impress Kitamura, and she is slowly getting better at cooking. Ryuji later gets his own picture of his crush the next day, when Minori gives him a picture of her eating pudding. But later at school he accidentally reveals to Kitamura that Taiga has pictures of him, and Ryuji is shocked to hear from him that he used to have a crush on Taiga. That night on the roof, Teiga explains that when Kitamura confessed to her on the roof years ago she turned him down, but over time she grew to have feelings for him and regretted her decision. During the school holidays, Teiga and Ryuji go to the restaurant Minori works in to see if she is there, but the red-haired girl isn't working that day. Instead they see the famous actress and model Ami. Ami shows up with Kitamura, and he introduces Ami as a former childhood friend. They all decide to eat together and Ami seems to have a kind and clumsy demeanor even though she is a famous actress. But when Kitamura and Ryuji leave the table, Kitamura shows him Ami's true personality is a spoiled princess when people aren't looking, and that she normally puts on a kind act for others. Teiga later slaps Ami because the blue-haired girl started to make fun of her fight, and the incident makes Teiga angry for the rest of the day, and she hopes to never see Ami again. But they find out the next day that Ami is transferring into their class. Ami's fake personality quickly wins over her classmates to Teiga's displeasure. Kitamura speaks to Ryuji and he states that although he doesn't mind Ami's fake personality, he would prefer if his childhood friend would act normally. Later, when Ryuji leaves the class for drinks, Ami tries to apologize for the day before. Teiga and Minori notice that he is speaking to Ami, and they pass him notes to express their displeasure. At the end of the day, Ami meets Teiga in the class and makes fun of Teiga, as they have become bitter enemies. They argue with each other, and Teiga warns Ami that she can't keep up her act in school for long. But Ami reveals that she apologized for the incident at the restaurant and that she has destroyed Teiga's friendship with Kitamura. When Teiga doesn't appear for dinner that night, Ryuji goes to her apartment to see her upset over Ami's words, and Ryuji comforts her saying that Ami has not sabotaged her friendships. And later that night, when they buy some snacks, they see Ami hiding from others buying lots of junk food for herself. The next day, Minori and Teiga try to reveal that Ami eats lots of junk food, and the blue-haired girl draws attention by fake crying. Later on the roof, they see a boy with a camera outside the school, and on the way home Ami goes to Ryuji to hide from the boy who is actually a stalker. Ami asks Ryuji for help avoiding the stalker, and Teiga offers her apartment for help because it is much higher quality and more secure than Ryuji's old apartment. Although they are enemies, Teiga gives Ami refreshments, and the next day Ami reveals that for 6 hours Teiga made Ami act out several famous people. Later, Teiga and Ryuji are approached by Kitamura, who asks Teiga if he can help Ami make true friends at the school. Teiga agrees and blackmails Ami into having lunch with them. Ami wonders why Teiga and Ryuji have the same lunch, so Teiga eats Ryuji's lunch. They later join the class in a mission to help clean up the town, and Teiga, who hoped to work with Kitamura, is disappointed to be grouped with Ami. When Teiga and Minori separate from them, Ami and Ryuji end up cleaning the river where Mud and a toad accidentally reveal Ami's spoiled personality. She tries to hide her fake personality, but Ryuji reveals that he knew the whole time. They later run into her stalker, who was the reason why Ami transferred far away to her school, and they watch when the stalker takes pictures of Teiga the small girl destroys, threatens him and chases him away. The incident inspires Ami to end her fake personality, and she runs to chase the stalker to beat him up and destroy his camera. Ryuji later congratulates Ami, but Teiga accidentally finds them together in his apartment, and Teiga becomes upset that Ryuji and Ami seem to be growing closer. The school pool is now open and the students are all excited to swim during the hot summer except for Teiga. And when the students go shopping for swimsuits, Ami teases Teiga by suggesting she wear children's swimsuits. Ami tries to impress Ryuji by picking a fancy swimsuit, but he ignores her to help Teiga, who can't pick a swimsuit for herself. Teiga is depressed the rest of the day, and Ryuji later figures out that Teiga hates the pool because she is too small for most swimsuits her age. She is also self-conscious because other students make fun of her small size. The next day, Ami uses her charm to impress the other students at the pool, and she starts to tease Teiga when she arrives. Teiga and Ryuji's plan is to use tricks to make Teiga seem bigger to avoid embarrassment, which seems to work on the other students. But when students start throwing each other into the pool, Ami picks up Teiga and dumps her in the middle of the pool. Ryuji sees that Teiga actually can't swim, and is suffering from an equipment malfunction. Ami later apologizes that evening for tossing Teiga into the pool, but also makes fun of the small girl not knowing how to swim. Since Ami's apology is half-hearted and she still argues with Teiga, Minori arrives and tells them to settle their differences using sports. They choose a random sporting event, but unfortunately for Teiga the contest will be a swimming race. Ami states that if she wins she will force Ryuji to hang out with her all summer, leaving Teiga to be alone during the holidays. Later in class, Teiga and Ryuji find out rumors are spreading throughout the class suggesting that the girls are fighting over Ryuji, and Teiga becomes upset. Later at the pool, Ryuji tries to help Teiga learn how to swim, but she is embarrassed with all the other students watching her fail. Ryuji puts Teiga on a strict eating and training regime to help her train for the race, but their plans become ruined when it starts to rain. They are encouraged by Kitamura, who arrives with tickets to the public pool, who is confident that Teiga will win. Later, Ryuji meets Ami at the drinking machines and he tells her to stop teasing Teiga so much, but she states that she really does want to spend the summer holidays with him. The next day the weather is better and they can practice swimming, and Ryuji finds out that Teiga's strength makes her good at swimming and she has a chance at winning. But when it suddenly starts raining, Taiga becomes angry and depressed when Ryuji tells her it's okay for her to lose the match because he can pack frozen food for her during the summer. Taiga then leaves, saying that he doesn't understand anything and she doesn't join him for dinner that night. Ryuji's mother then tells him to give Taiga some space, and Ryuji later gives Taiga some lunch. Soon it is the day of the match and Ami impresses the class with her swimsuit. Taiga arrives late to the race but is encouraged by Ryuji's lunch, and during the match Taiga sabotages Ami to get a head start in the race. Taiga suffers an injury during the race, and Ryuji heads into the pool to help her. But when Ryuji helps Taiga, he suffers an accident as well and has to be rescued by the class. The group decide that even though Taiga lost the match, they all should go to Ami's beach house for the summer holidays, including Minori and Kitamura. Ryuji has a horrible dream where he was ordered around like a dog, and when he wakes up Taiga tells him she had a horrible dream where her husband was a dog. The two later leave to meet their friends at the station, and the group are excited to be going to the beach house together, so they act strangely. Taiga and Ami immediately start arguing, so Ryuji asks them to be kind to each other while on vacation. Taiga also starts her plan to help Ryuji and Minori get together by showing Ryuji that Minori is easily scared by horror, and that he can play the role of her protector if she gets frightened during the trip. They eventually make it to Ami's beach house, but when the group go to play on the beach, Ryuji finds himself cleaning the house all by himself. Meanwhile, Taiga keeps trying to scare Minori while Ami asks Kitamura if he is having trouble with the student council at school. Later, Ryuji accidentally walks into Ami in the bathroom, but she was actually just cleaning and teases him. Ryuji later cooks curry for the group but makes it too spicy for everyone except for Minori, who loves the spicy curry. After dinner, Ami tries to talk to Ryuji but is disappointed when he wants to talk to Minori on the balcony. They end up talking about ghosts, and Minori subtly suggests they cannot be together. Finally that night, Taiga and Ryuji talk about their plans and are disappointed with the lack of the results. They are then shocked when they find evidence of ghosts and become scared themselves. But the next morning, Kitamura tells them that Minori suffered a breakdown the night before due to all the frightening situations. They then trick him into helping him scare Minori. Minori and Ryuji work together to create breakfast for everyone, and they both are good cooks. Ryuji becomes embarrassed when she tells him he will make his future wife happy. While they talk, Ami eavesdrops on them and she later tries to show off to Ryuji and becomes suspicious of what his plans are for Minori. The group spend time on the beach and have lunch, and they persuade Minori to join the group to explore a cavern next to the beach. Kitamura prepared traps ahead of time inside the cavern to scare Minori, but his traps are very basic and plain. Minori still manages to have a breakdown and wants to get out of the cavern as soon as possible. The group become lost and separated, with Ryuji alone with Ami, and she tells him that he isn't a good match for Minori. They then hear a scream and find Kitamura with Taiga, who have found one of Minori's sandals and believe something had taken her deeper into the cavern. The group then hears voices and whispers throughout the cave and begin to panic, but it was actually Minori working with Kitamura, who were trying to show them how to really scare people. That night they play with fireworks on the beach, and Ryuji is able to speak to Minori, who apologizes for scaring him. She asks him what his original plan to scare her was, and Ryuji subtly tries to confess to Minori, but she changes the topic. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.